Here we are.
And I don't know there was some discussion about it. Yeah, yes. So we called right
No, I was back to thank you for
I think what the members at large, they just pay extra help. But then if something happens, somebody will
I think that's some stuff.
and a hush fell over them. Michigan said nobody here. Yes.
I saw whenever I sent it my feet.
Okay, council, let's begin our study session. 5 p.m. See P&Z here. Trey, you're up first.
Good evening, council. We had a very busy agenda at our last P&Z meeting. Some of the items to talk to you guys about tonight. First one was a public hearing on the request of Happy Tales, which is back there behind Regions Bank, to rezone property from M2 to C2. And the rationale for it was they're wanting to do an extension on the back. As you know, it's, commercial property over there. There's both commercial and manufacturing. So we approved that unanimously so that they can do their addition.
Yeah.
Another item we had was on, I think it's called Domus Development LLC, looking to do some college housing, so to speak, over there at Lexington and Sprague Street. And they had a request to rezone property from R1 to R4. And then also there's a corner of it that they wanted to be rezoned to NC. And we approved that request as well. As you know, there's some apartments already over there, and we thought that it fit. Some other items we had probably a total of 7 plats that came in front of us. Only 3 of them, I believe, are in front of you guys and girls tonight, because there's some public improvements that I think have to be addressed as well on some of them. But in any event, JD's Place record plat we approved. For our Drive 3rd subdivision record plat we approved, and Independence Village record plat we approved. So I believe those are the only items that are in front of you guys tonight and at your next meeting.
Okay. Council, questions from P&Z? Got some action going, right?
All right, you make it easy for me.
Couple good developments there.
Yeah.
For us. All right.
Okay.
Very good.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Cape County Transit, Tom Mogilnicki, you're up. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me. And thanks for the support you have given me in the past. I have a new proposal for the City Council and the City of Cape Girardeau. We're running a fixed bus route in the City of Cape that consists of 61 stops. And at this time, we're charging $2 for the public and $1 for seniors and disabled. It's we're going to use more and more all the time, especially for transportation of people going to work. We're getting more and more high school students that's using us after school because they don't have a ride. The bus shows up at 3 or 3:30 and they have a way home, but after they stay for sports or tutoring or something like that, they don't have rides home. So fortunately, we're still going by there every hour on hour, pick those kids up. And so we're being used all the time. We have 2 routes, the north route and the south route. On the south route, which is south of Independence, we run 2 buses every half hour on the hour, and 1 bus in the northern zone north of Independence was 1 bus every hour, stop at these stops. What I'd like to propose today is for free rides in the City of Cape Girardeau on the bus. We have support of FTA, but most of all, I need additional support from the City of Cape Girardeau. And what this encompasses is a formula. When I draw funding from the federal government, I have to add up all my expenses, and this is an example. It's not accurate, but it shows you that I take a given amount of expenses in a given month. And I have to subtract any fares that I get on our bus route. And after I subtract the fares, and they divide that figure by 2, and that's what I can draw from our funds. Now, we take in about $25,000 a year on fares on the fixed bus route. Now, I'm only talking about the fixed bus route. I'm not talking about the demand response cab service that we have. So if I were to drop the charges on the bus, I would be losing about $25,000 a year. What I'm asking from the city council is to help subsidize the difference on the charges I'm charging at about $15,000 a year. I'm already losing about $4,000 a year, and that's on the next page, on the actual cost of running this facility. And if we could come up with an additional $15,000, I will run 6 days a week. I won't have to charge anything, because the other half will be given to me by the federal government, because I won't have to subtract the fares that I'm receiving. So they have all kinds of formulas that I have to follow. And one of them is I have to subtract the fares. And if I'm going to draw another $15,000 from the federal funds, I have to have matching funds. So that's where it comes in. The money that I would be getting from you guys and girls would offset that. So to be a break-even situation, it'd be good for the city, it'd be good for the area, and I'd like your support on this. I also included the ridership on the last page. You can see we have increasing ridership every year, and I think that will grow too. Any questions?
So with the 25,000, you said bus fare is 22,000, but yeah, it's actually about 25,000.
Well, range from 22 to 25, 26.
Tell me with 69,000 rides last year, right?
Yes,
And either $1 or $2,
yes.
how does that translate back to 25,000?
Well, a lot of them are free already.
Do you have a breakdown of free and pay?
No, and some of them are monthly passes. Our monthly passes are a lot cheaper than $1 or $2 ride.
Okay.
They can ride a whole month. How much is that, Steve? For month pass?
It's 30 days as many times as they want.
For how much?
For $35 a month.
For 35.
And they can ride
Okay.
every day, twice a day, 3 times a day.
The whole thing still just translates into $25,000
Yeah.
worth of income.
Yeah.
Okay.
And actually, the high school students are basically riding free. They're supposed to charge them for it and then send me the money afterwards that they collect at the school, but I've never received a dime, but that's all right. That's the way it is.
Okay.
You know,
So the 25,000, you say you'll make up the other 10 with government match, right?
yes.
Okay.
So I won't lose anything as long as I can have continuing partnership with the city of Cape Girardeau, and it's worked well so far.
This could result in a pretty good increase in ridership.
Yes.
How about the size of your vehicles? What kind of a load do you carry?
We have anywhere from 12 to 18 passenger buses, and very seldom do we fill them. And if we have to increase to more of the 18 passenger, we can do that. The cost of operation is about the same. The initial investment's a little higher, but cost of labor and cost of fuel is our major expenses. That won't change much if we have to go to bigger buses.
Okay.
And we actually have a 29 passenger we could use if we had to.
Okay. Other council?
Does the 68,000 include the fixed bus route and all the other routes?
No, our total ridership last year was over 200,000.
So this is just the fixed bus route?
This is just, I'm just talking about the fixed bus route.
you know of other communities that have adopted no charge?
We'll be the first.
I mean, I'll just say I'm a little bit concerned about providing a service with absolutely no contribution by the riders, even $1. I mean, sometimes people tend not to take seriously what comes for free, and it can change the predictability for service. I mean, I would encourage following up on the high school and other students who owe money to your service and providing more specific data on what you're actually taking in. If there are other examples, as I said, of cities that do this, I'd be interested in, but just saying, well, the federal government will pay for it. I mean, we have a lot of problems in this country because of that very response. I'd like more detail, more information, other examples before I'd be willing to consider something like this. And again, I think even paying something is better than just no charge whatsoever for the user.
Well, I came up with this idea because I was at a conference in Kansas City 3 weeks ago. And they have a light rail system that they just started. And it really circled most of the downtown area, Kansas City. And it's a whole brand new system, and it was absolutely free. You could ride on it any time of the day, all day and night. And it's just gone gangbusters. And I thought, if they can do it, why can't we? Why not be the first in the community to, and if the idea don't work, I can go back to charge. Not that I can't charge again. If I don't see any disadvantage to being free. I don't make that. My total cost on this bus system is between $400,000 and $450,000 a year to operate this, and I get the majority of it, up to about $4,000 or $5,000 a year, is offset by the city of Cape Girardeau and the federal government. So I'm only taking in ballpark $25,000 a year in revenue. I can offset that with a little support as a partnership with the city, and get the other part of half of it I can draw from the federal government.
Other council comments?
I'd like to second what Wayne said, but I'd like to hear more about it as well. We're only charging really not even $2, but like 30 cents. You know, with the passes that you talked about. I mean, if we have 68,000 and 22,000 divided by 69,000 is 30-something cents. So we're not charging a lot.
No.
And it is practically free.
It's practically free. It's almost a nuisance. It's almost a nuisance to charge.
It absolutely is. You know, because we don't have any, they have to do cash because we don't have credit card on the buses. We don't take checks.
Before I have another one, any other council?
I kind of tend to look the other way, and society with us asking to take away services, you know, it's not uncommon for a transit out in the district of Cape Girardeau for something to be free like this. So I tend to lean the other way and say, you know, I think this is something that could be good for the city, and is, you know, not to say that we couldn't get corporate, that Tom couldn't go out and get corporate sponsors to help with some of his rolling stock in the future, you know. I tend to like the idea.
I mean,
yeah, I do too, but we need to get staff to kind of analyze this, and so we'll really give this back to staff for review and recommendation. But I think personally it's a positive for our community, for those who use it, who we need transportation the most. I think it would be a positive thing for our community, and increased ridership would be that we're serving more people.
Right.
They're not going to ride the bus unless they need to ride the bus.
The other issue.
So we may not be serving everybody. Pardon?
The other issue, your safety issue, the drivers don't have to carry cash. Right now, they've got to carry cash for change. They're going to carry cash when they accept money from people, and that's a
Great point.
that's something to play on.
One thing to think about is there's increasing options for point to point and for on demand. If we say, look, there's some startups in Cape Girardeau, we have a private taxi service. If we said, look, maybe we'll only do fixed routes, and we would, allow other people to do point to point, something to at least consider in the analysis. I'm not saying to go that direction, but say, look, with the state moving toward considering banning cities from competing in areas where there's already private activity, that might be a trade-off to consider. To say, well, yeah, maybe we'll do these free, but then we won't do the on-demand if we have lots of other options.
The on-demand fares are generating $630,000 a year.
And they're not just, those are not just within the city of Cape Girardeau, by far.
Right, most of them are not in the city.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. One thing that's always been an issue and was an issue this past year and continues to be an issue is your capital replacement. And are you getting your arms around that now of how you can reasonably replace your vehicles in a timely basis? I know
really.
you get like an 80-20 match,
Right.
but you're having in this past year, you've had trouble finding the 20% because most of those monies have gone to operating.
Correct. And I still have that problem.
But you got to solve that, Tom.
Well,
You've got to solve that we've got to solve that. But we'll talk some more about that, but there's got to be a delineation between operating and capital, and you can't rob one to get the other somehow.
and I've had other people say, hey, look, raise your fares. It won't work. I take the fares and subtract it from the total expenses. I cannot use fares as match money. I have to raise. The government wants us to have all the communities involved support this. For every $1 you guys give me on operation, I get $1 back on vehicle, on capital. For every 20 cents, I get $1. So it's, unless I get support from the community, and I'm talking the cities, the county, corporate contributions, which I have a real hard time getting. It doesn't do me good to raise fares. I got to have support from the community, or I can.
You've got to come back with a plan for the right ask to make that happen on the capital side somehow.
Yep.
Okay, that's your charge.
Okay.
For the future, but I think let's give that to staff. Let you research it. Search out some other communities per Councilman Bowen's request, and let's see what the potential might be, and what the funding need is, and come back with a recommendation.
Will do.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
CVB.
Good evening.
Good evening.
John Maynard with the Chamber and Brenda Newbern, who is the Executive Director of the Cape Girardeau Convention and Visitors Bureau here. Thanks for the opportunity to appear. The Chamber has operated the CVB under a contractual relationship with the city since August of 2002 under 5-year renewable agreements. We've experienced much success, both in terms of numbers and in relationships. And in fact, just recently, the Missourian, under the authorship of Mark Bliss, did a very, very good article about the kind of success we've had at the CVB over the past decade specifically, but certainly it goes back farther than that. When the Chamber started looking at, and we've been looking at this for years, but when we started to consider the possibility of being able to move to a location which would bring CVB and us under the same roof along with Magnet, and of course, we've been able to capitalize on synergies just operating the CVB, but there's additional synergies we can get from being all in one location and under one roof. And when we had that opportunity, looked at that opportunity and began to move in that direction, I talked to City Manager Scott Meyer and said, hey, Scott, our time frame on our renewable is July of 2017. But we have to make some long-lasting decisions in our space in terms of lease lengths and room uses and different things like that. And we have to make those decisions as we're moving forward prior to the end of this year. So would it be possible for me to come to council and ask for simply an early extension of our 5-year renewable agreement? And he thought that would make total and complete sense. And so that's what we're here for tonight. Normally, you would consider this in July of 2017. We're asking you to please consider it as early as next month to begin the discussion. We'd certainly answer any questions you have for you tonight, but some assurances that I want to give you. First, we're not asking for any changes to the contract at all. Under the contract, you still approve our annual budget. We still give you annual audits. You still limit our budget growth to 3% per year, period, unless there's an experience of phenomenal growth, which is defined as above 8% in a calendar year on CVB revenue. You approve any revenue requested outside of our normal budget before it's spent. You also approve any surplus revenue. If we have surplus revenue from operations from a year, you approve those surplus revenue numbers as well. And this still only deals with the amount of money that you budget for CVB, not the entire restaurant, hotel, motel taxes. The one thing that Scott and I have discussed at great length is with our move down here and everybody being so close, proximity, and having some additional opportunities to capitalize on that, we definitely want to take a look at doing greater cross promotion with the PIO staff here, with OTC, both in terms of our new facilities. Julia's here as well. We're going to have obviously a new sports facility. We're going to have a new conference facility. We think there's some real synergies that can be gained with more regular meetings, more cross promotion, more interaction, more access to each other on a regular basis, and maybe even some sharing of people from time to time, and we've discussed those possibilities. Having said that, we're here to answer any questions you may have. And again, asking you to maybe consider as early as next month to begin to start the process of giving us an early 5-year renewal.
So what you're asking for then in 5 years from July of 17 through July of 22?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Questions?
So would the date of the agreement change, or would it approve the agreement that would start in July just in next month?
That's probably an Eric question. And I think, honestly, I mean, we'd be okay if the date of the agreement started as a 5 years from the time if we renewed it now. I mean, from our standpoint, it's to make sure, and we understand that it's, we just need to lock it up. I mean, we don't expect the relationship to change. We don't expect anything to be any different. But for us to make the kind of decisions over the next 5 years that we have to make, we just need to have the assurance that that relationship is going to continue. So we could go either way, 5 years from 2017 or 5 years from the time we do one. Either way.
Do you anticipate any major changes in operations based on what you said already about new venues, new sites, new attractions, Cape Girardeau, the sports complex and convention center and so on?
We have began discussions on things that could affect operations years down the road, specifically as it relates to sports promotion. I know Brenda and I have had internal discussions definitely on the way we do things from a marketing standpoint that will both be directed toward the sports side as well as the conference side. We've never had an attached conference center to a hotel. It puts us in play for a lot of things at the state level. We're not going to get national conferences. We're not Vegas or Phoenix, or that's not going to happen. But it does put us in play for a lot of statewide conferences and puts us in play for a lot of things that before we could never answer the question that we have an attached conference center to the hotel. So there will be some changes in marketing, definitely.
I'm certainly proud to have Brenda Newburn on board, and so pleased with the way she hit the ground running. Well, Brenda, great job taking off. I'm very anxious to see you get moved into your new quarters, and I think personally, the timing is right to move ahead with the 5 years. So we'll refer other comments from council, or we'll refer that back to staff to get it on an agenda. Anybody?
No, I think the request for clarity makes perfect sense. So.
Thank you.
And the timing in advance of all the things happening next year is a smart move too.
Yeah.
even if it wasn't coming from you, it might make sense for us to do it.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
anyone here to appear before the council on any item that is not on the agenda? Not on the agenda, anyone? Okay. Molly, agenda review.
Okay, we'll have one presentation this evening for Heritage Days, and I believe Paul Menninger will be here for that. Any communications and reports from council this evening?
MML, who's got MML?
Bob?
We do. I have a report on it, and, good stuff at different workshops attended, and, the fact we have to, socialize and network with people from other cities and talk about the same kind of problems and different kind of problems. And, to meet other people was interesting. And, it was nice having, Nicolette, Brendan, and Jessica Simpson there giving programs on communications and social media. I thought that was a big plus for Gerardo.
Okay.
They were both very good. Just go for what kind of staff we got.
Very good. Anybody else on MML? Oh, okay. I was sorry to miss MML, but I was down in Natchez, Mississippi with the Mississippi River Cities and Towns Initiative. And great event. This is our 5th year. It's our 5th year of being organized. Over 70 mayors up and down the river from Bemidji, Minnesota to New Orleans, promoting the river for economic development. Just trying to make the river, which is a great asset to everybody along the river, a better place. We had several presentations on shipments on the river. I had the number 2 guy from Department of Transportation there, talking particularly about the future of container on barge as the Panama Canal now opens up. That is active from New Orleans to Baton Rouge to Memphis currently, and opportunities further north and north of us as we move along. So there's a lot of opportunity there. He referred continually to the Mississippi River as M55. We got I-55, refer to the river as M55. So I think that's an official federal designation now. And the Department of Transportation is going to throw some monies to, they see economies of scale for commercial as far as costs of shipping, and also future wear and tear on highways, along with transit times being shorter than coming from ports on the East Coast and West Coast. So that was a major part. Another one that involves CVB is we signed a memorandum of understanding with National Geographic for a geotourism effort on all 10 states, coordinated tourism effort on all 10 states with web and so forth, promoting tourism, all kinds of tourism for all the cities, and we're going to work more on that with CVB and with the chamber. Again, a lot of interactions. There were other subjects, but I'll let it at that. Also participated in the sculpture unveiling for public safety at the museum. That sculpture was unveiled on 9/11. Moving ceremony, again, that was created and crafted by Chris Wubina from Southeast. He's been intimately involved with all our sculpture programs. That was entirely privately funded, and another addition to our sculptures along the way, and in honoring our public safety, fire, and police. Yesterday, I welcomed and encouraged corporate games at Osage. Again, that Osage is busy so often and so full of people. Julia and Penny, I tried to stay as excited as Penny when I was talking, but I couldn't quite make it. You'll understand what I'm talking about. 14th year, Penny, and the most teams, 22 teams, were there. Between 200 and 250 people were there on Sunday afternoon to kick off 2 weeks of corporate games. And we have a proclamation at the regular session for Heritage Days, and we'll talk about.
Actually, Julia just informed me that we have all the individuals present here right now.
I saw Paul. You want to do it
So you
now?
want to do it now?
Well, let's do it now. I think that's a great idea. Let's do it now. We will have, come on up, Paul. Anyone else?
You'd like everybody that's here to join us?
Yeah, absolutely. Up here in the corner. You've done this before. With a Keep It Beautiful. All right. Anyone else? Come on down. And I'm sure you're going to be the spokesman. I will. Okay, so when we get through with the proclamation, there's very specifics that are going to be going on. So I'll let Paul Denninger address at the podium after that. But the proclamation in itself says, whereas preserving our local history is an integral part of the fabric of our communities throughout this country, including our own city and county of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. And whereas our local historic sites and programs are vitally important to our quality of life in the city, ensuring the preservation of valuable historical artifacts and resources for our citizens and visitors to enjoy. And whereas historic sites and programs provide a window in the past that help provide education and understanding about our way of life and what's important to our city and our society. And whereas the city and county of Cape Girardeau, Missouri enjoy a rich heritage of people who have contributed to the growth and prosperity of our region through good times and also periods of conflict, laying a foundation to help our region thrive and grow yesterday, today, and into the future. Whereas historic sites, properties, and programs increase a community's economic prosperity through increased property values, expansion of the tax base, increased tourism and attraction and retention of businesses, who value the contribution that history and heritage provide. Whereas recognition of the history and heritage in our community is an engaging effort, taking many hours of academic research and volunteer hours to develop events and activities that help history come alive for our youth, that they too will appreciate the value of history and heritage in our community with enthusiasm and carry on our traditions. And whereas the historical organizations and associations in our city and county have collaborated to host a variety of programs and events at various locations during the first weekend in October 2016 in recognition of our history. That showcases our heritage and culture that binds us all together in the celebration of the past. Whereas the city of Cape Girardeau, its elected officials and citizens recognize the benefits derived from our rich history and heritage in the southeast Missouri region. Now therefore be it resolved, I, Harry Rediger, Mayor of the city of Cape Girardeau, do hereby proclaim the week of September 30th through October 2nd as Cape Girardeau Heritage Days. So that makes it official. By that way, Paul, thank you all for all of your work in this. You got the picture?
If everybody could move this way. Just keep doing a little something.
Come on this side. At least one.
There's four, that's perfect. Thank you. Round faces.
Again, and I'll let Paul come to the podium, but our history, we're so rich in history, and what a solid base it gives our community as we continue to thrive and grow. So, Paul, and thank you all for being here.
Mayor, council, thank you very much for the recognition of all the volunteers here. I'm reminded that this is an election year, And one of the most democratic things that happen is when a volunteer votes to make their community a better place. And so it's very gracious of you all to recognize these volunteers. There are others, as you can see from the list I provided. There's activities starting September 30th, which we're having Mark Twain narrate a brief synopsis of what's going on, interspersed with music from Jerry Ford, Steve Schaffner, and Dennis Stromat. He specializes in the Cajun history of music in our area. On Saturday, we have activities at the Cape River Heritage Museum, both Saturday and Sunday. They're featuring the fire department one day and the police department the next day. And if you have the urge for a free lunch, you can stop by there around noon, get some hot dogs. The Chris Museum has painting. They also have a lecture from one of the crew members of the LST that's going to be at the base of the river, parked there for tours. They have their normal activities there at the museum also. If you look at the card, the bookmark, or the flyer, the logo you see there was designed by Ellen Hawes from the Chris Museum. Also, we have a full-scale reenactment at the Fort D Historic Site. It's a Civil War reenactment by the Tanner Brigade. It's full-scale thing. Everybody's dressed in period costumes. They're cooking. Everything they're doing is period specific. On 11 o'clock Sunday, they will have a period religious service. Glen House is featuring tea at several different times. If you're interested in that, you need to go to our website the visitcape.com/heritage days. This is the CVB website. And you go there and you see a link there to make your reservation for the tea. The Heritage Hall has various activities, some of which occur around 5 o'clock on Saturday. They have a presentation about J.B. Legg and the architecture of the city of Cape. And then on Sunday, they're going to have a tour of the Flag House or the Lemming House in Cape. Old St. Vincent's Church is also going to be open Saturday and after church services on Sunday. And I've heard a rumor that there's going to be a priest or two play the role of Father Pierre Marquette, and also a priest that graduated from St. Mary the Barons and came down to Cape Girardeau and presented or had an active diary that provides stories for the priest to tell. The Red House Interpretive Center is going to have activities for kids and adults. The Beehive Oven is going to be fired up and cooking things. They have the flintlock rifles, tomahawk throw, and several things like that. Old Larmer Cemetery will be open thanks to our sexton from the city of Cape. And Frank Nichols is going to provide tour of the Old Larmer Cemetery. On Sunday, there was more activities. You can check the website for more. The showpiece for Sunday is at the Fairmount Cemetery, in which Ms. Denise Lincoln has assembled stories regarding various U.S. colored troops that were buried there during the Civil War. Specific for this event, we're going to install 2 headstones for 2 unmarked graves for 2 of the soldiers that were buried there. She'll have arranged for role players to tell a little bit about the lives of the other people buried there. So we hope that you all will take time to visit there. And again, I thank you for recognizing all the volunteers here.
Yeah, volunteers are so important to our community, and I remember how busy the city was last weekend and last week. What wasn't going on last week, but I think we're going to top that at the end of the month with Heritage Days. Sounds great, Paul.
Right, there's a lot of things going on.
A lot of things going on.
It makes for a lot of fun.
Okay.
Everybody can find something to do.
Appreciate you all being here. I wanted to talk just a little bit about, I woke up this morning, I was sitting having a cup of coffee, and lo and behold, I'd heard about the stabbings at a mall in Minnesota, but I didn't pay any much attention to where it was. But I had CBS Morning News on, and I looked up, and it was Dave Kleiss city. Dave Kleiss is the mayor of St. Cloud, Minnesota. Last week in Natchez, I had dinner 2 nights with Dave Kleiss. Last year, we had our annual meeting in St. Cloud, Minnesota. I've become a close friend of Dave Kleiss. St. Cloud, Minnesota, I kind of consider is really kind of a sister city to Cape Girardeau. It's about our same size. It's on the river. It's a university city, St. Cloud State. Has a nice mall. It's a great city. They were rocked with apparently a terrorist attack last week. I've been in contact with him today through email and phone. Their city was rocked with that last weekend, and what it told me is it isn't just New York City. We're all very vulnerable, Wes and Rick, to what may happen anywhere at any time. And we are so proud of all of our public servers, our public safety people as they serve our community and keep it safe. But I'm saying to all of us that whether we're in a business, managing, or you're in an organization, or you're in a neighborhood, or you're just out with your family, just be alert. We talk about this a lot with all of our people. Be alert to what's going on around you. You never know, and if you can pick up something that doesn't look right, it probably doesn't look right. It really brought it home to me. Wes, any comments there?
I think the only thing I would add to that is you're right, we're in dangerous times, and it's incumbent on us to be diligent as citizens, and dialing 911 because you see something suspicious is never a hassle, it's never a bother to us. We'd rather us come out and check it out and it'd be absolutely nothing at all than it not be checked out and be a horrific event that we have to deal with, both with the police and with emotions of our community and all that. So if you see it, call it in.
Okay. And anyone else on? Anyone else?
I'll mention the
yeah,
old time motorcycles and cannonball run and what event we had there.
Yeah, getting out of town and missed that one. That had been a good one.
That was a lot of fun.
Interesting, huh?
Yeah.
Very good.
That was a big crowd down there.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Osage Center that you mentioned earlier, Mr. Mayor, I want to mention the half marathon on 5K this weekend at the Osage Center, and Parks and Rec's contribution to that being a successful event. And then also, I was going to say something briefly about the police department's change on funeral escorts.
Okay.
I want to speak about SNAP.
Go ahead.
The meetings for SNAP is every fourth Tuesday of the month, and it starts at 5:30 at Salvation Army. Still need everyone to come that can come and show support of the things that are going on South Side. So that meeting is open to everybody.
That's tomorrow night?
The fourth Tuesday.
Fourth Tuesday, so
Yeah.
next week.
Next week.
Next week on Tuesday at
Mhm.
5:30.
Mhm.
Salvation Army.
Yes.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, Molly, back to you.
Okay. The consent agenda, the second and third items on the consent agenda are second and third readings for traffic control changes from the last meeting, specifically establishing a yield sign on Abbey Road and repealing a 30-minute loading zone on Henderson, which will be used for a bus stop. Item number 4 is the second and third reading of an agreement with MoDOT for the design and construction of the runway lighting project at the airport. Item number 5 is a resolution authorizing an agreement with Reinhold Electric for the construction of that runway lighting project at the airport. Items 6, 7, and 8 are our fire station projects. Specifically, item 6 is for an agreement with Kiefner Brothers for Fire Station 1 interior renovation and addition. Item 7 is an agreement with Penzel Construction for the Fire Station 2 annex. And item 8 is an agreement with Kiefner Brothers for the Fire Station 2 interior renovation. I do want to make a comment regarding all 3 of these projects. As you all know, these are funded through our fire sales tax. Currently, the project costs exceed the amount of funding available. So we are currently evaluating, especially Fire Station 1 scope of work. We'll be working with the architects and the contractors to see if there's a way to reduce the project cost, possibly reduce the scope of work, but it is in our intent to complete those projects as originally intended. So we will continue to drill down on that over the next 45 to 60 days until we have a better handle on that, and we will know by December whether or not we will proceed with the entire Fire Station 1 project as intended. So.
With the Fire Station 1, does that involve both the interior renovation and the addition, or the addition, or both?
The Fire Station
possible
1 project
change.
that we're looking at reducing is the addition
The
to Fire
addition,
Station
okay.
1, which would be on the south end of the building, a 2-story addition for additional vehicle
Okay.
bay and
Interior
workout.
are good, is good to go ahead. The interior renovation.
The remodel of the bathrooms and whatnot
Okay.
will continue,
Good.
yes, regardless.
Okay.
So the idea would be see if we can do it under current means, but if not, to try to potentially phase it, to do what we can now with the possibility of the addition, the remaining coming later with additional revenue?
I think once we have a better handle of what the shortfall is, we can either look at phasing those improvements or trying to identify alternate funding sources. But as we continue to work with those project teams, we'll have a better understanding of exactly how much of a shortfall we're talking about. We wanted to lock in the contract though, so those prices are good for the next 90 days, and that's why they were brought forward as
Yeah,
is.
obviously the needs have been identified. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, items 9 and 10 have to do with the next phase of Cape Splash, Phase 2. The first item, number 9, is a resolution for an amendment to the agreement with Marking Associates. They do the professional design services for Phase 2, and due to some electrical design modifications, we do need to have a slight increase in that contract amount. Likewise, item number 10 is a resolution authorizing an agreement with KCI Construction for the construction of those improvements. And again, there was some cost increase due to some design modifications that we saw, still within the amount that council authorized in August. Number 11 is for a performance agreement with DI Hotels for Farrar Drive 3rd Subdivision, which is also on the agenda under item number 17 for the record plat. The performance agreement is simply a mechanism for us to make the improvements if the developer doesn't do so within the next 2 years. Item 12 is a license and indemnity agreement with Simo for the installation of conduit and fiber along Broadway. This is an extension of the fiber project that we did earlier in the year that they did to the mass media building. Now they would like to connect the Catapult building to that fiber network. And then lastly, we have item number 13, which is an agreement with Eisler Demolition for the demolition of the 2 million gallon Gordonville water tank. I do also want to make a comment about this item. If you read the council report, you'll notice that there was a significant difference between the 2 bids that we received for that project. We had one on the high end at almost $335,000, and the low bid was $45,000. So quite a big discrepancy. If you were like me, you might have raised some questions, but we did drill down on that. And basically what that boils down to is Eisler, this is their bread and butter. This is the only thing they do is tank demolitions, and they do it all across the country. So we checked with our engineering firm. They highly recommend Eisler. We have significant documentation demonstrating that they are very good at what they do. So we're very comfortable with that amount, even though it is significantly less than the engineer's estimate and the other bid that we received.
And there'll be another item coming to us after this for the construction of the new tank.
Yes, it's currently in design.
Okay. And we got plenty of capacity.
Yes.
Kevin's nodding his head. Okay.
Are there any items that council would like to remove from the consent agenda?
I'd like to have my vote on number 12 recorded as an abstention because of my employment.
Okay, we can handle that.
All right, under new ordinances, item number 14 and 15 both have to deal with amending the traffic schedule. They're both cleanup items where we had repeat ordinances in place. So number 14 is repealing an existing ordinance regarding no parking along a portion of West End. All the current regulations will remain the same. It's just getting rid of the redundancy in the traffic code. Likewise, with item number 15, we had two ordinances dealing with the same issue, limiting parking on a portion of Highland Drive. We will be repealing one of those ordinances. The same regulations and signage will remain in place. Items 16, 17, and 18 are all record plats. The first is JD's Place, which is simply combining two lots into one where there's an existing single-family home. 17 is the Farrar Drive third subdivision plat where the new convention center is being located. And 18 is a record plat for Independence Village. This is reconfiguring commercial tracts and lots into two new lots. And then lastly, we have an appointment to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and I believe that Kevin Greaser is the recommended
Kevin
appointee.
Greaser would be the recommend for council for that appointment this month.
And that would
Okay,
conclude our
thank
regular
you.
business.
Council, anything else to come up for us during our study session? If not, we do need to have a closed session tonight for legal action and litigation, confidential communication with our legal counsel and personnel matters pursuant to revised statute 610-021, numbers 1 and 3. If I could have a motion.
So moved.
By Mr. Gunn, seconded by Guard. Those in favor, aye. Those opposed? Okay, we'll stand adjourned and reconvene at 7 p.m. Do you know about this repurposed earmarks? Where all of our 4.8
We're going to
million,
talk about it in Simo Wednesday.
4.8 million that it was left over from.
Oh, yeah, he withheld.
Yeah.
Yeah, he withheld it all.
Huh? Yeah, it's all been
It's
shipped
all
to
being
Scott County for
repurposed.
for I-55 down at the Booty.
That's what you said today that I didn't make my way all the way through it.
Okay.
We need to ask about that.
That's a simple.
Do you need anything from me for the contract stuff? That's the contract.
I'm assuming it's just updating the dates and
That's really all it is.
Yeah.
So if you see what you need, I think I'll leave it.
we'll probably put it on the next meeting or
Might
the
as
meeting
well.
thereafter.
I
and
don't
just
think
get
it's
it done.
not a controversial thing. Just get it done.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, okay. Well, I got that on my list. Kevin? What did I have Kevin for?
You guys did
City manager.
Oh,
accurate.